materials we're going to need today kind of spread out along this table. So I'm just going to go over them kind of quickly so you guys can get a rough idea what you're needing. And this is just what I'm building. I've decided to build for my personal raised bed garden. Do you need any of this stuff? Probably not. You probably, you know, if you want to build a raised bed, probably all you need is a handsaw, some wood, and, you know, a hammer and nails. You know, today we're going to be going a little bit bigger and a little bit overboard on some areas. Because you want to keep in consideration, you know, the longevity of your garden, how long you want it to last before you have to repair it. But again, like I said earlier, you don't need any of this stuff. All you need to do is turn up some dirt, throw some seeds and water it. I'm going to talk to you guys about, you know, some of the materials we're using here today, some of the tools. So just to kind of go down quickly through some of the things we're going to be using, you know, some of the basic building components like our drills, our level, our square, our plumb line, so we can make sure that our raised bed is nice and square. We've got our miter saw for, you know, cutting up our lumber. And that, you know, brings us over here to the lumber. We've got, you know, some hard 4x4 posts, and we're using 2x12s to kind of build as the walls for the raised bed gardens. Some of the other stuff we got spread out around here is we've got some of our drip irrigation stuff. So some of the timer, some of the piping and the fittings and everything else you're going to need for setting up a drip irrigation system. We're going to talk about that in kind of future episodes. Kind of the last couple components too, something for trellising. So, you know, when you're building in a raised bed garden, usually you don't have a lot of square footage. You know, you don't have the benefit of having acres and acres of land to build to grow all your food on. So I highly recommend building with trellis systems so you can grow vertically. So, you know, you're not letting your plants kind of sprawl out and take up all your valuable square footage when you can grow, you know, straight up and down. So we've got some components for that today too, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later as well. So these are the components. We're going to get right into things. We're going to start, you know, tearing down my old raised bed and, you know, preparing the site and getting ready to start building. So some of the main differences between, you know, the new beds we're building today and the old beds are, you know, these old 4x6 timbers, it's all pieces together. There's lots of seams and stuff, and I've had issues kind of, you can see where it's heaved out just from the actual pressure of the soil. They're also only 6 inches high, so I've had 2, so it was built up 1 foot. And today we're going to be replacing it, or building the new beds with these new 2x12 timbers. We're going to be coming up. It's going to give us a good sized bed that's going to give us lots of soil. And one thing to keep in mind, you know, do you have to go with the 2x12s? Definitely not. You know, I wouldn't recommend probably going any less than 2x6s if you're going to do a raised bed. I'd probably even stay maybe closer to the 2x8s. But you really can do anything. You know, you can stack 2x4s on top of each other. The reason I want to go with these 2x12s is that, you know, it gets rid of any seams. So I'm not going to have any issues with boards really heaving out or, you know, leaking soil in between. Alright, so we got our site prepared here. We've got the dirt all leveled off with our loader. We got our old dirt moved away from our other raised bed, our old raised bed that we're replacing today. And we've just got kind of some stakes in the ground, kind of just roughly measured out so we can get kind of a general idea of the layout. So you can see we've got kind of a stake in the ground for each corner, and then these are going to be the pathways in between each bed. And this is going to be the pathway along the fence. So you know, one thing to keep in mind, and the reason why I've got these pathways so wide, these are 4 feet wide, is just so I can get my lawnmower in here and cut the grass. Probably eventually I might put down some wood chips or something so I don't have to worry about the grass in here, but I think for right now I'm going to build the beds 4 feet wide so that I have the option, if I want to plant grass here, I can still get my lawnmower in here and I, you know, don't have to cut it by hand. So so we've got our raised beds kind of roughly laid out, and we're going to start construction now and get building. Okay, so we've started construction here. We've got our 2x12s laid out on each bed. So now we just got to cut all the end pieces. We're going to need 6 4-foot end pieces. So we've got, you know, these boards just measured out at 4 feet. We're just going to cut them up. So one thing I want to touch on is this wood is just natural spruce wood. It's not pressure treated wood. I would highly recommend going with either cedar or spruce, or, you know, even some redwoods, or, you know, whatever you have available to you. But I would kind of you know, suggest that you guys stay away from the pressure treated lumber. You know, it's formulated to be outside, but there are a lot of toxins and chemicals that get used in the process, you know, in the process of pressure treating the wood. So you know, it's your personal preference, but I've, you know, read and done a bit of research on it and have heard things about some of the chemicals actually leaching into the soil. You know, and if it leaches into the soil, then it's going to go into your plants, and then, you know what, you're going to eat it. So I would highly recommend, you know, sticking with all natural, you know, lumbers and staying away from the pressure treated wood. So we're going to cut up 6 of these into 4-foot chunks, so we have our ends for each raised bed. And so let's get started with the construction. Alright guys, so you can see here we got one of the beds put together, and we've still got 2 more to go. I'm just going to kind of break down the construction a little bit. We've got just our hardwood beams here. They're cut at about 16 inches, so you can see that they're just a little bit longer than our 2x12, so that we actually kind of sink this right into the ground just to kind of keep it from shifting and kind of, you know, keep the bed kind of square as it is. And we're using these big lag bolts, so we pre-drill our 2x12s and we pre-drill our, I guess we want to call these our 4x4s or something. Just so we can get the screw in without cracking the wood and, you know, making it too hard for our drills to get in there. So these are, you know, probably a little bit heavier duty than you really need to do. You could, again, put these together with nails and screws. I got these for, you know, 65% off because the company I bought them off was going out of business. So I decided to splurge and get kind of the heavier hardware that's going to last a little bit longer. We just kind of stuck some old 2x4s. We cut them into spikes, pounded them in about 1 foot. And we've got 2 on each side just to kind of keep the 2x12s from bowing. We've got 2 more to go, and we're well on our way here to start gardening. And we're putting in 2 of these lag bolts in each board. So we've got some nice pre-drilled holes there, and we're going to use our cordless impact to drive the big legs in. And that's really it. So we're going to build our end pieces first, and then we're going to move on to our side planks. So next we flipped over our end planks that we just mounted our 4x4s onto, and we just line up our big long side planks, and again just pre-drill and screw together. So now we got the bed all put together, we're just going to flip it over and get it roughly positioned to where we want it. Now that we have a rough position for our raised bed, we're just going to dig little holes here for our little planks to sink into. Since we're using untreated wood on our raised bed gardens, we want to do something to kind of protect the wood so we get some longevity out of it. You know, I said earlier you can use, you know, some natural non-toxic sealants to coat your beds in. I've chose not to do that because I didn't want to spend the money on it because I'm not going to live here long enough, and these beds will probably be here long after I move out of here. So as an alternative, we've got some of this industrial commercial pond lining. It's also used in landfills and stuff. It's kind of from a family friend that has his own business. So we've got some of this stuff for free. So what we're going to do is actually just cut strips of it, and then we're going to take the strips of the plastic and kind of just staple it up around the inside of the raised bed, just to kind of keep the moisture off the wood so it doesn't rot as quickly. So, you know, this is a free alternative. You guys don't have to do this if you don't want to. I would recommend, if you're looking to have a raised bed last you a long time, to do some sort of sealing. But you know, in every case is a little bit different. This is what we're gonna do here today. So that wraps up construction on our raised bed gardens. You know, hopefully this gives you guys a few ideas and a bit of motivation to get building and growing yourself. Maybe you saw something that you liked, maybe you saw some things I did today that you didn't like, but hopefully it gets you kind of your creative juices flowing and gets you, you know, one step closer to growing your own food at home. You know, this definitely isn't the most inexpensive way to start gardening, but it was far from the most expensive way. It's kind of a happy medium in between. And you know, you got to take into consideration how much you're willing to spend, and you know what's going to be best for your application. You know, this worked great for me. Hopefully it gives you guys some ideas, and hopefully it gets you one step closer to growing.